Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to National Matters. I am your pastor, Pastor Moses Chiluba, and in the studio I have, is not a guest, is part of Camnet TV, His Honor, the former Vice President of the Republic of Zambia. I must put this clearly to those of you that are watching in the diaspora and around the world. He's a pastor, but he has served as number 2 in this nation. And so I felt it would be prudent for me to call somebody who was the head of the house in Parliament to come and join me in understanding the pronouncements that the health minister made yesterday. Welcome to the program, Dr. MUMBA.
Pastor, thank you so much for having me. Always a joy to be at Camnet. I look forward to this program. I think it's a very, very important discussion, and I know that many people would like to join us and also have their voices heard over this program. So thank you so much for having me tonight.
I must also say to the nation that this program will be phoning in program. You can phone, you can send your messages by text, you can also send your message through Zoom, WhatsApp. Tonight, you are free to reach us. In other words, Dr. MUMBA and I will open up a debate. But before we go further, I want to ask my director, just in case you missed what the Minister of Health said, Madam Sylvia Masebo. She said that on behalf of the government. And I want you to take a close ear to every statement that she made. May God bless this great nation of Zambia. My director, please give us the clip.
Zambia is currently experiencing a decrease in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases, with a consistent test positivity of less than 1% in the last 3 months. We also note a reduction in the number of people admitted to health facilities and deaths due to COVID-19. Of note is also the number of people being vaccinated, which have increased from 3% to over 8% in the last 2 months. This is encouraging, but obviously more work needs to be done to get more people to be vaccinated. As government, we are doing everything possible to increase the numbers. Before I update you on the current situation and public health measures that government has put in place to avert the risk of the 4th wave and the threats of the new variant, Omicron, allow me to remind you of the global burden of COVID-19. In the last 24 hours, 483,031 new cases, including 5,959 new deaths, were reported among 221 countries and territories. The highest burden of new cases in the last 24 hours were recorded in Europe, with 70%, followed by Asia with 18%, North America 6%, and South America 4%. Africa accounts for 1.2% of new cases in the last 24 hours. Back home, in the last 24 hours, Zambia reports 5 new COVID-19 cases. Zambia also records 15 recoveries and 0 COVID-19 related deaths. The 5 new confirmed COVID-19 cases were detected from 2,798 tests, representing a positivity of 0.2% nationally. The provincial distribution of the new cases and within province positivity is as follows. Central Province, 0. Copperbelt, 1. Eastern Province, 0. Luapula Province, 1. Lusaka Province, 1. Muchinga, 0. Northern, 0. Northwestern, 2. Southern, 0. And Western Province, 0. The cases reported were from the following districts: Kasempa District, 2. Lusaka City, 1. Kitwe City, 1. And Chifulnabuli District, 1 case each. The cumulative number of confirmed cases recorded to date in Zambia now stands at 210,143, including 3,667 deaths. Members of the press, the World Health Organization has announced the emergence of a new COVID-19 variant of concern, VOC, now called Omicron. As such, countries are asked to enhance surveillance and sequencing efforts to better understand circulating SARS-CoV-2 variants. In this regard, it is imperative that public health measures be heightened to avert the risk of Zambia experiencing another wave of COVID-19. A 4th wave could overwhelm our health system, including our economy. The government of the Republic of Zambia, through the leadership of His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, convened the Council of Ministers on Epidemics and Disaster Management, which was chaired by Her Honor the Vice President of the Republic of Zambia, Mrs. W.K. Mutale Nalumango, MP. In order to address the threat of the new variant Omicron and to prevent the advent of a possible imminent 4th wave, government has taken the following public health measures that will come into effect on Tuesday, 30th of November, 2021. 1. Surveillance at all points of entry will be heightened. Both testing for SARS-CoV-2 and vaccination will be conducted. These are airports, road border ports, sea entry points, and illegal entry points. 2. All travelers coming from high-risk countries will be quarantined for 10 days in designated places at own cost. Local authorities and the police service will continue inspection of all public places for adherence to public health measures for COVID-19 control. They will also ensure the public places are fumigated frequently. 4. Public transport operators must ensure masking up, hand sanitizing, and physical distancing by restricting the number of passengers in respect of the bus size. Operators are also to regularly sanitize their buses. 5. Markets and bus stations not to allow anyone in the markets or bus stations without wearing a mask. All the marketeers and shop owners are expected to wear masks and provide sanitation facilities at all times. 6. Members of the public shall not be allowed into public places without masks. 7, it will be a requirement for all persons to provide evidence of vaccination before entry into government buildings. 8, it will be a requirement for civil and public servants to be vaccinated for them to be admitted at work. This shall be done in consultation with the unions. 9, churches to meet 3 times a week, but for only 1 hour each time they meet. Repeat that. To only meet 3 times a week, but for only 1 hour each time they meet. Government will in this regard continue to monitor the churches and religious gatherings for adherence to the guidelines of allowing 3 of 1 gatherings each week, subject by and funerals should only accommodate less than 50 approval. All taverns, nightclubs, cinemas, casinos, and shall ensure to such as regular all bars night only to 20 hours a week is to enable the premise owners sanitize the facilities. 13, government will roll out and upscale nationwide vaccination for 2 million people by Christmas 2021, using areas of mass gatherings, such as markets, shopping malls, sports stadia, and so on. All these measures are for a period of 1 month and will be subject to review. However, more measures shall be announced as the situation unfolds. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Dear Cabinet TV viewers, there you have it. Our able minister, Madam Sylvia Masebo, putting a lot of restrictions, of which Your Honor, the former Vice President, I want you to put on that jacket as the former Vice President and advise. The question is, what is your take on the conditions that the Madam has outlined?
Thank you so much, Pastor Chiluba and the audience. I think that this is a very important discussion, and I would like to address specifically the issues that have been raised by the minister. The reason for that is because we are living in a time of information overload online and on the internet and all that. So we do not want to bring foreign information in. Let's restrict ourselves to what she said, because it is extremely important. You notice that, first of all, she gives us the understanding of the extent of this pandemic, which we appreciate. Then she immediately moves into the issue of the government intervention program, of how they hope and want to change this. We notice from where we stand, we don't really have a problem from point number 1, which talks about our usual protection, that are the 5 golden rules that we have always been used to: washing your hands, masking up, a meter distance, and all that. We are in agreement with that, and we remain in agreement with the minister up to point number 6. I think this conversation is going to take a twist now because of the newly introduced measure that government is bringing in. And this is, in number 7, it says that anybody to enter a government building, you want to go get your passport, you want to go to any facility which is government, that you have to show the vaccination certificate. It's the first time that Zambia has ever gone there. And that is really where the contention is going to be. The 8th one also says that no civil servant will be allowed to go to the office in the absence of the vaccination certificate. Now, the reason why that is important, and I speak now from the point of when you speak today, you talked about being pastor. But I'm also going to speak today as a public officer student, public policy student, because that's my qualification. Democracy has got its own system of operation. It means that if we have to do something today in this country, or even between the two of us, we have to agree on how we are going to get it done, so that there is consensus on how we are going to achieve that. The issue of COVID-19 is a dangerous matter. It affects everybody globally. But in order for us to move together as a nation, we must be sensitive that government can no longer, because it's not a monarchy, it's a democracy, cannot instruct us that we are going to do this to you, especially if it affects your health privacy. So I think that where we disagree with the minister is where she starts now to talk about vaccine mandate, because that has no limitation. Today, the minister is saying you don't enter the government building and you do not go to work as a civil servant. Tomorrow, you need to show the vaccination certificate to get on a bus to go to Kitwe. The following day, you need to show the vaccination ticket, to go to ShopRite. This thing comes...
And the markets.
And the markets. This thing comes one after the other. The problem we have is that these mandates are really not democratic. Unless I am behind, I've not heard of any statutory instrument that has been signed to suspend the rights of those who do not want to get vaccinated. And now we must be very, very clear that when you are governing a people, there will always be people that will be hesitant to do certain things. There are 2 Zambians, Pastor, that this government must be aware of. And you and I must support both of them. The first Zambian that is there is a Zambian that says, I don't want to get COVID, I believe in this vaccine, I want to be vaccinated. He's a Zambian. Another Zambian says, I am not going to get vaccinated. I have my questions. First of all, it could be anything, Pastor. It could be because of religious reasons. You and I are coming from the church background. There are certain people who seriously believe that this could be leading to Revelation and all the 666. You can't change that. That's what they have interpreted this thing. And to force them to get vaccinated without you really explaining in a manner that they feel satisfied, it's unfair. So some of them, it's basically cultural. They don't want to get vaccinated. Some of them believe that science has not really convinced them yet that this is the right thing to do. They are watching those people that have got the vaccination, and they're watching them get sick and they die, just like those who are not vaccinated. So they are asking these questions and wondering, why are they forcing us? The international community promised to give you money in order for you to get vaccinated. And there are these questions. So between you and myself, I want us from the governor's point of view. So what it means that to govern a people, a group of people, you have to use wisdom. Because these people have different fears and convictions, and you must govern them. My position today, from the governor's point of view, is that both these 2 Zambians, he that has been vaccinated and he that has not been vaccinated, their rights must be protected. And this is where it becomes challenging, because government cannot only protect those that have been vaccinated. It has to protect those who have not been vaccinated. So for them to say, if you are not vaccinated, then you won't go there, you won't do that, then they have chosen that they are only going to protect those that are vaccinated. And I think that the only way this thing can be resolved is if there's a statutory instrument, or it goes to Parliament, where this thing is debated by the representatives of the people to say that we are going to go in that direction, and possibly that could happen if they don't want to have a consultation with the entire nation. So I think for me, we have reached a point on which we need to raise a red flag to government. My party is in partnership with UPND in governance on 7 principles, and we remain committed to their success. But we believe that when an issue drops in that threatens the very democracy that we cherish, we must talk about it together. What about those who will not get vaccinated? What about those who have got very good reasons because they're not yet satisfied? How are we going to treat them as a government? By restricting them from being part of the system of goods and services being provided to them. So I think for me, to conclude this matter, and this is where I'm going to base my discussion, it's like you and I, Pastor Chiluba, we live in a village. And the chief says we are going to build a well behind the anthill. And then a family rises up and said, you cannot build a well there because that's where we bury our ancestors. That's where we have buried our people. So if you put a well there, we're almost drinking water from our own ancestors. You understand? So to them it is important you don't put the well there. The chief thinks that's the best spot for the well. Now, there are 2 ways in order to govern in peace and respect and in wisdom. The chief will have to call those and sit down and say, this is our argument as to why it should be there. Then they allow the others also to give their argument. The most dangerous statement, Pastor, in the statement of the minister is not necessarily this mandate, which we must talk about and ask government to hold on this one. It is actually the fact that they are going to ask the police service to monitor anybody who puts information online that suggests that we should not proceed with this program that has started. Now, that sounds very innocent, but basically this is the situation now where people are being gagged, that you can't discuss this matter. There is a clip that is going around, which I made just at the time when this pandemic began last year. And I made it very clear that I'm not against the vaccinations if you have decided to take a vaccination. But let us make sure we prove that it is safe for our people. And I think every government official agrees with me that you cannot give your people something you have not verified as government as being safe, because then you are being, irresponsible. So I said, they should not be verified by America or Russia, but verified by our own scientists. The reason I say that is that our interests can only be taken care of by ourselves and not by the people out there across the ocean. So I think that we're at a point where that statement by the minister scares me a bit, because who decides what is a safe argument? Because all we are calling for now, sir, and those of you watching us by television, we need a debate on this thing. And even in my first video, I called for a debate. But anybody who wants to debate is being told to shut up, or he will go to jail, or they are going to arrest him. You cannot enforce or force somebody to get an injection he doesn't want. In conclusion, and I know that you want to say something, when you go to the hospital and they want to do a medical procedure on you, for instance, they want to do an operation. The doctor, before he does it, he sits down with you. So these are the implications of this surgery. Do you want to take it or do you not want to take it? That is extremely important, because it's a medical ethical requirement to ask you, even if the person is about to die and only the surgery will save him, according to the doctors, if the man says, I don't want it, they cannot force him to have it. It is the principle in the privacy of medical care. I'm not a doctor, but I know these issues because I go to the hospital. So I think the same with the vaccination. Why is it different that when somebody asks the question that I don't want to be vaccinated, because science has not really yet been well explained to me. And is there somebody who can give me more information that I can give an informed decision? So I think we are at a point where we want to tell government two things. We accept that there is COVID-19 going on. Omicron variant that has come, people are going to ask questions that since we don't even understand it, what it can do and what it cannot do, how do we know? The last jab we received of Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca or Moderna, that is still valid with this variant. So I think that the science itself is still struggling within itself to be able to explain what we are involved in. And because of that, government must be extremely careful when it comes to declaring mandates. We are with government on the areas of cleaning our hands, making sure we mask up, 1 meter distancing, social distancing. We think we need to do everything within our power. But this vaccine mandate that has been mentioned in the past 24 hours, it is a place where I believe we are going to have to differ as a people until we find consensus on this matter.
Doc, before we came here, as you know that Abazoka was supposed to sit in here today with Mr. MUMBA, Honorable MUMBA, but because of the demand, our phones with my wife began ringing last night, this morning, 05 from the US, from the UK. Where is the government taking you people? And because of that, I was forced to go to credible lawyers. And as I sit here, I consulted some of the best lawyers Zambia has. I said, is it legal to force people to say you must take a vaccine? And without mentioning names, some of the people that have saved this country at the highest point in this nation, one of them said, this is definitely an infringement of our fundamental rights. And he goes on to say, but this is not from our constitution, just like you said. In America, Dr. MUMBA, you and I know, and I received the judgments today. President Biden lost 2 appeals in America on the mandatory vaccine. And this is the world's biggest democracy. They don't need it. And the people are saying it's not mandatory. Why should Zambians, a small nation, not developed, go to the extent of saying without a vaccine you can't go to the market? Where is this coming from?
Pastor, I think that we need to be very, very clear that we are addressing a government that has proposed these measures, saying that they want them to start tomorrow. We appeal to this government that if you do that on the mandating, you are overstepping. It's absolutely unnecessary to push people in that direction. Because, look, you have talked about the United States. If there's a country that religiously believes in their freedoms, it's the United States. Somebody said not too long ago, the ratings of President Biden have started to slide. Of course, there are many other issues there, but the issue of the mandates, where they're demanding in order to go to a government building, you have to have a certificate. And I know how government is going to argue this against us. They are going to say, we are not forcing anybody. You know, we are not forcing anybody to get the vaccination. But obviously, if you tell them they cannot be civil servants, because if a civil servant today, according to what has been put in place, goes to work and does not have a vaccination certificate, he cannot be allowed there. Consequently, he's going to lose his job because there are people, let me say this to government, there are people that will not receive this vaccine. We just have to accept that. It's like us, you and I, as evangelists. We want everybody to be saved. It's good for them to be born again, to go to heaven. But we cannot force them to receive Jesus Christ, and if they don't, we put a gun to their head. No, they have to come to a place where they say, yes, I have heard what you have preached. I agree with the content of your message. By my own volition, I give my life to God. It is the same thing when you're governing a people with a democratic, in a democratic dispensation. You cannot order them from the top. Democracy demands consensus. On this matter of mandate, I know that government may think it's only 2 little things they have done. No, 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 no. That's how it starts. You start with restricting them from going to the government buildings. Then you restrict them from going to work if they don't have the certificate of vaccination. Then you tell them they cannot go to the market if they don't have the vaccination certificate. So it's going to grow from one thing to the other. And yet we are in a place in which Zambia is doing extremely well in terms of managing this pandemic. All we need to do is to make sure that we keep respecting the 5 golden rules. Now, the other thing I want to give as an example. When I was in government, we decided to deal with the issue of HIV because it was at its height in a manner that demanded, and I hope you allow me to say what I'm going to say because it may not sound like I'm a pastor, but it's important to say it all. You know, for HIV, we used what we called multi-sectoral approach, meaning that we really didn't know the best way to deal with this virus that was killing people like this. People were dying one after the other. And we decided that we need to use a multi-sectoral approach, meaning that anything that we can use that to reduce the infection rate, let's do it. What are some of those things? We said people should use condoms. People should take ARVs. Should not stop taking ARVs. People should a man should only have one partner. You know, we talked about that. We talked about diet, the kind of foods that people should be eating. We talked about people exercising. We talked about things that would, in concert with each other, help to deliver that desire of freeing our nation from the HIV virus. And Zambia, by the way, was one of the countries that did extremely well in keeping these rules in order for HIV to be defeated in the manner that it was. But never once did we take one solution. Like vaccine is the only one that if you don't take, you will not eat with us on the table. No. We didn't say that we are going to put policemen at the hotels and guest houses. Anybody who comes there to inspect if they have a condom. If they don't have a condom, they can't get into the hotel. No, we didn't do that because that's really now really pushing it into the privacy of individuals. You make sure that you preach what needs to be done and make sure that the people abide by those things that you have agreed upon. But when you say the mandate, you can't get there because you have no certificate. I think we are now overstepping because the information on the virus, or rather on the COVID-19 and how it's going to be healed or resolved, it's not clear yet. It's all an experiment. Everything is being experimented. Even now, the Omicron that has come. What are they going to do? Which vaccine are they going to use? Is it the one that we got yesterday, or do we need to have another? It's an ongoing thing. So it is important for government to allow Zambians to ask the necessary questions. We would say it's not a good idea to threaten anybody who has a question contrary to the position that has been taken by government, because you govern people and these people have opinions, these people read, these people watch, and they have all these questions. You know, the way Kenneth Kaunda used to do it, we maybe would have laughed at him, but he used to have, you know, the which we call ZANIS now, ZIS, Zambia Information Service. When Kenneth Kaunda wanted to introduce something we were not aware of, He put ZIS on the road in their Land Rovers, going across the country, educating the Zambians about that new thing they want to popularize and adopt. That's all government needs to do, even about the vaccine. You can't force people. You can't, not even God forces us. So where does government draw the power to force people when God doesn't force people? So I think we are at a place where on this aspect, this government must backpedal and start afresh. We will support it to make sure that this Omicron does not take life as we are fearing. But I think vaccine mandates, which are being fought where they are coming from, as a small country, I don't want us to be the first country on the continent to introduce these mandates. And I want to say in closing on this subject that Zambia and Africa, we should cease being carbon copies. They give you a list and say this is what we are going to do in Africa. And all of us are reading one after the other and implementing. No. This is the problem Africa has had for years. We need to receive the list from wherever it comes from, whether it's World Health Organization, European Union, from the United States, from Russia. They give us a list. The best we can do is to sit down and domesticate that list. To domesticate it means that it now applies to our situation as we are Zambians. There are certain factors, like today, the minister herself was very clear in her statement that, you see, in Germany, for instance, they have 75,000 cases reported in 24 hours. Okay? 75,000. In South Africa, 2,500 reported in 24 hours. In Zambia, 7 reported in 24 hours. But right there, we are not in the same space. So even the mitigation cannot be the same. You cannot give, what is this medicine they give as the last option to somebody feeling pain?
Morphine.
Morphine. You can't give morphine when you can use just an ordinary painkiller, Panadol. And this is where we are. That Germany with 75,000 in 24 hours must use certain applications that deal with that burden. It's a load that they have to deal with. But we're dealing with 7 people per day and no deaths today. And several days we have not had deaths. So I'm not saying we should relax, but I'm saying that I think that going to the mandate is really taking a jet, to fly to Lumumba Road from here in Ibex. I think that the jet is too much. Let's go step at a time. And government, if you want to get the confidence of the people, walk with them, go with them. Don't leave them behind by bringing these drastic changes that are going to bring so much debate that we are going to lose a lot of time in uniting ourselves as a people.
Dr. MUMBA, you earlier talked about the ethics that doctors uphold. One of the notable lawyers in our nation had a serious operation not too long ago. And he would come to my wife and I, would pray, would counsel him. But the doctors gave him chance. They showed him how big the operation will be. 50% survival, 50% going to be with the Lord. And they said at this stage, we can save your life. Professionally, we can save your life. But we don't want you to come in the theater without consent. You must sign, and your family must agree to it. They gave him this. He brought it to my wife and I. We looked at it, we prayed with him, I gave my view. It took about 1 or 2 weeks. He finally said, Pastor, I'm signing. And he signed. Thank God today is okay. Is there a provision for the government to say, you get this vaccine? Should anything go wrong, we will be responsible. Is there anything like that?
No, there isn't. And I think that is really the crux of the matter in our debate tonight. if government feels that the mandate must be for everybody, then they must also make an undertaking that if after 2 weeks you are paralyzed, for instance, or you go blind, or you can no longer have children, and it is traced to the vaccine, then you will be compensated, or your family will be compensated. Government must take that undertaking. But there's no government that is taking that undertaking, not just our government, not even pharmaceutical companies that are making the vaccine.
They are indemnified.
Yeah, they're indemnified.
You can't sue them.
They are not taking any responsibility. Creating the environment that the only thing that is left, Zambians are people that would like to believe they are governments. So government must come to a place where they take the big responsibility of trying to convince the Zambians why you want them to be vaccinated. You cannot force them. Again, let me say this thing. You cannot force a Zambian to get a vaccination without his consent. The Constitution of the Republic of Zambia gives inalienable rights to every citizen. And the Bill of Rights, by the way, also says that you cannot force anyone to do to himself what he does not want to do. It's in the Bill of Rights. These are things we subscribe to. The argument, like I said, that will come from government is that we are not forcing anybody. But if you hold back on the services that are due to me as a citizen, how can you say you are not forcing me? It's like you twist my arm, that if you don't turn this way, your arm will break. I have to go where you are because you're stronger than me. Government is stronger than me. They've got the police, they've got the army, they've got all these people they're going to use against me if I do not oblige. So we appeal. This is a Christian nation. And this is a point that I want to make today. A Christian nation must operate on certain values. First of all, democracy is just a system of consensus. And if we force people to get a vaccination without their consent, then we are really going against the principles of democracy. But like I said in the beginning, there are certain Christians that really believe that this mandate issue may not end here. It may come to a place where the 6-6 matter comes in, where they say that if you don't get this here or here, you can neither sell nor buy. Now, I'm not saying that you and I are held to that. To me, that is just a subset of the matter. Government's responsibility is to take care of everyone's rights, including those who are hesitant to get the vaccination. You have to protect them. That's the job of a government. And those that have taken the vaccine, they also have to protect them, because it is important that you look after the affairs of all Zambians. So today I think that a lot of Zambians have reacted to this, not because of the 6 other points or 8 other points that the minister made, but if you notice, it's the first time there's been this reaction because the word mandate has been mentioned. And Zambians know exactly where that is going to go. And if you need a mandate, make sure that it goes through the process. Either the process of statutory instruments, or the process of parliament, or the process of consultation across the nation with the Zambian people. Because the goodness about consultation, the goodness about consensus, is that if the government is a very good communicator of information as to what they want to do, and they know that in order for a human being or their citizens to remain alive, every Zambian must have their leg cut. You understand? One of their legs must be cut, so that that's the only way we can solve the problem of this country. Now, if there is a greater good for cutting my leg, that Zambia will be better, there will be no sickness, or there will be something that really is going to work in the public good, and they can explain it to the Zambians that by cutting off your right legs, Zambia will be better in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways. Zambians will be willing to give their legs to be amputated.
And that there will be no poverty.
And there will be no poverty. They will give their legs to be amputated. But you have to talk to them. You have to convince them, so that they say, although I'm cutting off my leg, it's for public good. And this is where government, you can't use a shortcut government. It's a big job to vaccinate 2 million people before Christmas. It's a big assignment. The only way that can be done is to fill the airwaves and the country with positive information as to how and why you are doing this with and to the Zambian people.
Dr. Mumba, I know you are not in government. An ignorant person like me would simply think or conclude that probably the powers that be, or the international governments, or World Health Organization has paid our government to force us to do this. It is just those thoughts, that stray thoughts, if you like it. And you see, you cannot stop people from thinking aloud. How do you, before Christmas, you want 2 million people to be vaccinated? Don't go to any market. How will we eat? Will this government be happy? People are dying of hunger because they are not taking the vaccine? Surely, this is unheard of.
It's a serious matter. I think that the speculation going on in the country by different people is being fueled by a lack of consensus. For instance, you know, today it's not like the days of the yellow fever. When ZNBC would announce that because there's yellow fever, all of you get vaccinated. Even then, they were not being forced like we are being forced now. They were being educated. They were being advised. They were being told that this is good for you, it's good for your children, go and get the yellow fever jab, and it's going to do this and this. They never paid anybody for them to get a jab like they're doing now. They never threatened that if you ask a question about this pandemic, then we are going to charge you with a cyber crime. They didn't challenge them. This is why these questions are being raised. The question I have, why are we failing to debate this thing? In the beginning, like I said, last year, that little video that is going around today, I said, once they bring the vaccines, we need to put together a team of our own scientists to sit around here. We may not have the capacity to produce our own vaccine.
But Doc, your video, which we shall play, Mr. Director, please keep those, because before coming in the studio, I had a lot of research from professionals. Are you aware that I can't import seed from Brazil, from anywhere, without it being certified by Mount Makulu?
Exactly.
Our scientists will tell you this is not good.
Exactly.
But those are crops.
Yes.
What about
our health? So it's these questions that you are raising, or governments on the continent, and Zambia also has started to raise in the minds of the people. We said, sit down with the scientists. They are there. It's other countries like the United States and European Union. They are using Zambians to do what we are doing, even discovering of vaccines and things. Zambians are part of those processes. We have scientists in this country. If we don't have enough, we can call on other scientists who are in the diaspora to come and work with us on this matter. But that was a pandemic that came suddenly, and we needed to find answers. Some other countries had the resources to be able to come up with the vaccines. So what is so difficult about calling your very best guys, but infundishisha science, and sit them around and say, "But about to pay AstraZeneca, and the constitution of this AstraZeneca is ABCD. We also have Moderna, and Moderna is made from this kind of arrangement. We also have Pfizer, and Pfizer is also made from this arrangement," and go through the whole list, Johnson & Johnson, and then they say, we had to go to the United States, to the companies that make this. Government can sponsor their scientists if we can't make our own, to go and ask the necessary questions. Because, you know, I was High Commissioner in Canada, and Canada, you know, imports sometimes medicine from Europe, from Germany, and places like that. But I found out that there in Germany, where they make the medicine, they have 3 factories. one factory serves the first world, the United States, Canada, and things like that. The other one is Asianic countries like India and Japan. The other country, not Japan, but the Middle Asian countries and Mexico. And then the third one is for the third world, like Africa. Now I asked them, what is the difference? They said because Canadians, if you're going to make medicines for them, they'll be standing over your shoulders with the list of specifications of the kind of medicine they want. And you have to make it according to the specifications they're telling you. Because if you do deviate from it, they will not buy that medication. They have raised standards for themselves. So I said, then what about the one for the African market? No, so we can laugh now, but it hurts me. It really does. How long will it take us to raise our own standards? It's this thing. You notice that 75% of 75,000 people are being infected per day in Germany and 7 in Zambia. Then 5 in Zambia. Then Britain closes doors to Zambia with 5. And the 75,000, they still can go. They're flying to. So I think
and Zambia says you can't travel. Yeah, and Zambia, you can't with 5%.
Just 5 people, not 5%. 5 people. So the question I'm bringing to the Zambian people and the African continent is that let's accept the fact that we are on our own. When it really comes down for them to decide, they'll decide for their own. That is why it is important that we start to find home-brewed solutions to our challenges and our problems. But our insatiable love for New York and London and Lisbon and all these European places and Paris, our insatiable desire to go there and be part of them is what makes us compromise our own thing. Why don't we make Lusaka, Kitwe, Ndola, Livingston places to be admired, to be rushed to? We can do that for ourselves, but we go and sharpen our weapons of war in the land of the Philistines, like the book of Samuel says. So today I think we have seen the truth. We are closed out because of 5 people being infected. Germany, they can still fly to London, but they've got 75,000 people per day being infected. And I think it's these matters that Zambians must acknowledge that even when they give us a list of what we should do, there's nothing wrong sharing notes globally because we're in a global community. But take the list and domesticate it according to the Zambian situation. That's what leadership is for. You and I understand this. I went to college to study theology in America. And they taught me certain things in America that when I came to Zambia, I had to domesticate my approach in preaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I can't give the examples of California. I have to give the examples of Senkobo here, because this is how you domesticate the message. It's the same thing for medicines and for vaccines. And I agree with you when you talk about the seed. Why should we verify the seed to make sure that it's proper for our environment, but we refuse to ask any questions about the vaccine? And I'm not discouraging Zambians from getting them. I think they should do what they must do after they are satisfied that this thing is verified to be safe.
Doc, I want to appeal to Honorable Masebo. President HH, please rescind your decision. I'm requesting on behalf of other Zambians, because as a pastor, we have seen it all. 3 months ago, Bishop, a Zambian working for an international government, international body in Seychelles, they were given a mandatory injection, and the family is here. And the moment he got that vaccine, his health started deteriorating. The young brother phoned me, Pastor, my brother is in this condition. I said, where is he? He says he's in Seychelles. Before long, he was flown back to Zambia. And the condition started going down. As we talk, he's 6 feet. He's gone. And I said, can't you sue the people who made the vaccine? And that's when I discovered that these people are indemnified. Even the American, what's his name? the man in charge of this.
Bill Gates? No, no.
No, in America.
Fauci. Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, that man. You can't sue him. Fauci or whatever.
Fauci.
You can't sue him. They've made it very clear. In England, I'm going to give this because, you know, this is about the people of Zambia. It's about their lives. And once you become leaders, it does not mean that you should tell me what kind of clothes I should put on. Nemuntu nshilwele atikalasu enyereti. Nishita munje belanga ndinensala at sorry obwat. Why not bring rice? I'm going to somebody, like I said, I spent time receiving this, and nobody out there should even ever think that this is a political issue. It has nothing to do with politics, Dr. MUMBA.
No.
It's not about UPND. It's not about the PF. It's not about anybody. It's about the lives of people. I received this because I've been saying, Lord God Almighty, how do we go about this? And those of you who've got pens, please write this. It's a document that reads that the British government has spilled the beans about that fact that once you get double jabbed, you will never again be able to acquire full natural immunity. Once you get the double jab, and this is on the government page of the British government. The website is https://assets.publishingservice.service.gov.uk. This is a government website, and they've agreed that once you receive that, you disturb your natural immunity.
Correct.
This is government.
Yes. So let me say this now from a public policy position, because I'm here really, I'm not a scientist, and I cannot claim to go into the science lane, but I agree with the fact that people are reading these things. Now, from the public policy point of view, because of information like this, and it's not the only piece of information that is out there which scares people. This program is not about to scare anybody about the vaccine or whatever. We're not scaring it. I'm not part of the theory mongering people, because even governments are theorizing because they don't have the answers. Everyone is theorizing. There's no clear position on the answer to COVID-19 as yet. And it's not a new thing. We had HIV amongst us, and we still didn't have a cure for it for a long time. So it's not a new thing.
Even malaria.
Even malaria, our people have been dying for it for years. So to say that, we are stopping people from getting the vaccination would be wrong. But the reason I'm saying what I'm saying from the policy position, it is important that government takes note of the fact that what you have read is what the people are reading when they're on their phones. And these are evolving fear in them. And even if they say don't post anything that will make somebody be scared, we are not the only ones posting in Zambia. It's being posted from all over the world, and people will be reading wrong things, bad things, correct things. So what should the government do in a generation like this? A generation like this demands for a government that becomes so respectable by its own people, that becomes so trusted by its own people, that when all has been said and done, and all has been put online, the Zambian people will say, we are now waiting to hear what our government is going to say. To get that position, you have to earn it. You have to earn it because Zambians have to always feel you are on their side as a government. This information that you have read, it's information that government may say it's rubbish, you don't listen to it, but that's not enough. Government must have its own program of informing Zambians without threatening them, without making them be fearful, because government must have interest in their own people.
Absolutely.
You notice that at the end of this month, I understand there will be, I don't know whether it's 200 million doses that are going to be wasted and expired globally because the powerful nations have refused to give them to the poor countries who have
about 220 million.
220 million doses of vaccines
which will expire.
They will expire by tomorrow because they are holding on because they made them for their own people.
And they've refused.
And their people are also saying, we're not going to take it. So I want to, some of them, of course, are taking it. But the point I'm trying to make here today is that there comes a time when government must realize we are responsible for our own people. Our interest is our people. The fears they have, we must address those fears. If government is not sure about a vaccine, Pastor Chiluba, government must come clean on behalf of the Zambian people and side with the Zambians. Not side with some European or Russian or American. They should side with the Zambian people in order to demand for answers. That's what a government of the people, for the people, and by the people does. It's all about the people, their fears, their aspirations, and their comfort in their nation. So this issue of the vaccine and all the fake information as it's called, or dangerous information as it's called, it will not go anywhere. Government needs to establish a communication system of integrity and a respectable system that Zambians can fall back on in order for them to do what government is advising them to do.
I want you to listen, I want the nation to listen to this clip by a lady minister in the European Parliament. She's a minister, and she doesn't miss her words. And there are so many people. I have a bag of clips, Dr. MUMBA, of the people out there, including the United States. Right now in the United States of America, if you call 911, that time you finish, you've lived in America. If you dial that, it wouldn't take 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You have the police outside. But now, ask anybody living in America. I've been receiving these things. They are saying that will come later, and others, because the police are overwhelmed. They would rather go without an injection, and so there is shortage of manpower there. And this is one reason why President Biden's rating has gone down to 43%. And these things are in public domain. So I don't know why we should come so strong. I appeal to Madam Masebo. I'm a pastor, and I'm a voice for the voiceless, and it touches me when, as a pastor, somebody comes shivering because he had the injection. It's not good.
Yeah.
So I cannot sit here and pretend all is well when things are not well. Like you said, the problem in Africa is if you question the leadership, you are threatened with a prison. As in media, maybe you can thank God for President HH said no media should close. But you are threatened with all sorts of things because you are standing up to the government.
You know, I think this is a very big test for the new government. I think Zambians have been very hopeful, and they are hopeful that the UPND government is going to be different in terms of allowing the expression, the various views that exist. I think that so far we have seen some of us that are in the political space. You can't believe that I've been invited to ZNBC so many times. They still want me to go there, which is strange, never used to happen. So we appreciate that. But this issue of the mandate and the vaccine will be a very big test for the UPND government. Because now people are going to be watching very closely to see whether this government is going to listen to the concerns and the questions that the Zambian people have and how they are going to respond to these questions. That's why I'm concerned about the last paragraph of the minister's statement of saying the Zambia police will be guided to arrest those people and charge them with cyber crimes for, if they give misinformation. Now the question is, what is misinformation? Misinformation is anything that does not agree with government position on this matter. So I think that we need to redo that, because this country does not need any of that where we are going to be told to keep our mouths shut when we have questions. Let us ask questions. Government must have a superior program that they are using in order to relay what is good for this country. And once Zambians hear that the government is honest, the government is giving them proper information, Zambians will line up to get those vaccinations. But you can't force them. That's the word that we are talking about. You cannot force anyone to get a vaccination, because you can only persuade them. And that's the meaning of democracy. Democracy is about persuasion.
And you get into office, you swear to protect the Constitution, right?
Yes, yes. So basically, I think the UPND government really is on the crossroads of being tested. And I think that there is no need for UPND to fail this exam. I think what Zambians have reacted to the past 48 hours, it's almost 48 hours, is this vaccine mandate, because we were hearing of it outside our country. Now it's coming to us. Oh. But what is important, what is really interesting, Pastor Chiluba, is what President Ramaphosa said.
In fact, I was coming to that. Before you empty that, I want to ask my director to play your clip, which you said, that was last year, right?
That was
this year?
March. No, last year, March.
Last year?
2020, yes.
2020. My director, I want you to play Dr. Mumba's clip. After that, play Cyril Ramaphosa's concern over travels here, and then play the concerns of the lady who is a minister in the European government. After that, we'll pick it up. And please stay tuned, because this is important.
Any Zambian body, before strenuous verification and validation is done to this vaccine, no injection should be inserted into a body of any Zambian. We must declare that the vaccine is unsafe until it is scientifically proved to be safe. Not by the Americans, like I said, not by the Russians, not by the Europeans, but declared safe by our own scientists and our own doctors. I heard somebody say, where are we going to get scientists and doctors? Well, if you can't verify what is given to you by your own people, then I suggest that you don't get involved in touching things that are made by others, because then you can be poisoned and we can all die like fools, like Martin Luther King Jr. said. If we are ignorant and we don't want to verify what we eat and what we inject in our bodies or ingest in our bodies, then I think that we do not have the sovereignty and we are not a state. We are now called a banana republic. But I believe that we have got some of the most educated scientists in this country and doctors who must be trusted to dissect the constitution of this vaccine and ensure that it is right and fit for our people. We may be poor, but we are not stupid. We can read when they write on the vaccine that this is not for distribution in the United States and this cannot be used in the European Union. This injection cannot, this vaccine cannot be used in Europe. They're even telling you that this is not for us because they've got some other substandard stuff that they make for us. How do you know the injection that was given to President Biden is the same vaccine that is coming here? You didn't check it when they put it on him. You have not compared that vaccine to the vaccine you have received. You can watch it on CNN and say, even President Biden got a dosage of it. Are you sure? Did you see it? Did you get the drop and analyze it that it's the same drop getting into an African's body? I think that we need to be more responsible. And our salvation outside God will be by responsible governments on the continent of Africa. Corrupt governments, those who are just looking for money from the West are going to kill their people like fools. We shall die like fools if we have a government which is corrupt and is only waiting to be given money by the international community. We should never accept everything that comes to us without verifying it ourselves. So I shall not debate myself our reservations on the privileged information that we hold about the coming vaccine. I think I shall leave that out. I shall not deal with it. Suffice to say that I would not inject it into my body, my children's, or those I love who happen to be all Zambians. This position can only change if it is established by ourselves that the vaccine is safe.
We are deeply disappointed by the decision of several countries to prohibit travel from a number of Southern African countries, including our own. Instead of prohibiting travel, the rich countries of the world need to support the efforts of developing countries, economies that is, to access and to manufacture enough vaccine doses for their people without delay.
Governments have gone to great length to get people vaccinated. We were promised the vaccinations will be a game changer and it will restore our freedom. Turns out none of that was true. It does not render you immune. You can still contract the virus and you can still be infectious. The only thing this vaccine did for sure was to spill billions and billions of dollars in the pockets of pharmaceutical companies. Whenever a government claims to have the people's interest at heart, you need to think again. In the entire history of mankind, there has never been a political elite sincerely concerned about the well-being of regular people. What makes any of us think that it is different now? Never take anything any government tells you at face value. Always question everything any government does or does not do. Whenever a political elite pushes an agenda this hard and resorts to extortion and manipulation to get their way, you can almost always be sure your benefit is definitely not what they had at heart. As far as I'm concerned, I will not be vaccinated with anything that has not been properly vetted and tested and has shown no sound scientific evidence that the benefits outweigh the disease itself and possible long-term side effects, which, to this day, we don't know anything about. I will not be reduced to a mere guinea pig by getting vaccinated with an experimental drug. And I will most assuredly not get vaccinated because my government tells me to and promises in return I will be granted freedom. Let's be clear about one thing. No one grants me freedom, for I am a free person.
There you have it, Dr. MUMBA. Beginning with your clip, you warned this nation under PF.
Yes, yes.
Not under UPND. And your position hasn't changed.
No, no.
And there is President Cyril Ramaphosa just saying, what is this? Like you are rightly saying, 5 people. You should say no one traveling out or coming in without a vaccine. You know, and South Africa is a bigger economy than ours.
Of course, yes, of
course.
And
do we see also the economical implications of this? And not only that, there is a minister in the European Union who says, I'm not going to be vaccinated. She is in Europe.
Yeah.
Why should me, Chinsali, Nemundu Yafemukusenda, a massacre? That you must have a vaccination certificate.
Yeah, I think for me, because of where I'm coming from, I'm both a pastor and a political leader. I also understand the challenge that the government is facing. And this is why we would like to guide the government at this point, because all of us are interested in the final outcome of this process. These issues, including what we are watching on television from the European Union and people from the British websites where they're talking about these issues, I want to repeat this. these will not end. This information will continue to be churned out. Some of it is good, some of it is honest, some of it is not even honest. You know, what's his name? Donald Trump used to call it fake news. But in a world like ours, the online information has everything, the good and the bad, the good and, you know, the ugly and the pretty. Everything is online. That is why governments must be careful to know what are their citizens reading, what are they hearing. So they are not children whom you just tell that you are going to do this, because they are reading, they are studying, they are seeing. So you can't treat them like you have the answers and they don't. Because they also believe, even if it's fake, they believe that it's the right thing. So how do you handle that as a government? Government must not seem to have a strong arm to say, unless you do what we are doing, you know, there will be repercussions. I think democracy, again, I'm going to the same thing. Democracy demands consensus. This project may not succeed if power is used in excess. It is soft power with our people that is going to make them even get a vaccine. Because no one is going to get a vaccine if they are not convinced. And we are not having this meeting. I want to make it very clear. We are not having this meeting, or at least I didn't come to this interview to tell Zambians not to get vaccinated. You listen to my clip. My clip was extremely clear. That let the vaccines come, but when they come, let them come to the table of Zambian scientists to verify what's wrong with that. What is so unchristian about that? What is so unleadership about taking responsibility of the medication or the things you give to your own citizens? I think it's expected of every leader and every government to say this vaccine is safe for our people. And you have to keep saying it, encouraging them to take it, give your examples until the Zambians follow what government is saying. But forcing a Zambian will not help. I like what Cyril has said, President Ramaphosa. He's trying to reason with the African countries. To say, brothers, we are brothers. Now you can't shut down, you know, against us. Who are your brothers? Because we've got 2,000 people and maybe 5 people that are found with the Omicron, the new one. And then you say South Africa, we close it out. You don't even know the extent of its devastation. So I think that we are in a place where government needs to take it easy. I borrow your words, Pastor Chiluba, to the government. A message to the government and to the Minister of Health that we agree with all these 5 golden rules that we have given to our people of washing our hands, making sure we mask up, making sure that we have the social distancing, and making sure that we protect ourselves from the big crowds. But we do have a difference with the mandate that you are starting to bring, that to go to a government building, you have to have a vaccination certificate. Well, like somebody was joking today, say, you mean even to go to jail, I have to have it's a government facility. To go to a clinic, I have to have a thing. So some of these things, we need to go easy on them, listen to the Zambian people, don't walk too much far away from them, walk with them so that we can unite this country in defeating the COVID-19. We must defeat it, but we must defeat it together by uniting the country and not dividing the country or annoying the country or people feeling coerced, because there's no human being, doesn't matter how poor he is, who wants to be coerced and to be arm twisted and to be told like your idea doesn't matter, the information you have doesn't matter except what we have. I think that to unite this country against COVID-19, government must be consultative. Government must seek consensus so that we can, together as a nation, defeat this pandemic.
We're going to open these lines, Dr. MUMBA. We debate as a nation. And those of you in the diaspora, there is Zoom, we will give you a chance. But I want to come back to Dr. Kaunda's leadership. And the good thing is, we've had 7 presidents now. Correct. He's the 7th.
Yes.
So you can be able to look and compare certain things. Whenever Dr. Kaunda was faced with a situation that puzzled him, You and I were still ministers. He called on the church to pray. He said, I want the church to pray. Not once, not twice, several times. He called on the church to pray. President Chiluba, same thing. He called on the church to pray. Even when there was El Nino, you remember, we met and prayed together that it may rain. This is just El Nino, no rain. But the government called upon the church to pray. I'm coming to my other question. Does Minister Sylvia Masebo understand what it means for me to preach within 20 minutes? Because she says the church will be given 1 hour in which to worship God, in which to, and they say they will monitor the church 3 times in a week, but 1 hour. Doc, you and I, you know that we have everlasting gospel. To just explain one point, 30 minutes is gone. Did the government call some of the ministers to say, how long does it take you to conduct a service? We don't just go there. Abantu n'abafika, Jesus said, this is the way. You don't do that. There is time for worship. There is time for repentance. There is time for this. Time for, before you know it, it's gone. At least this is why we are called Protestants, because we protest on a number of things. You know, now an hour given to the church. And then bars and casino, 2 hours. Where is the priority? I've got a lot of thoughts within my mind. You give the church 1 hour. You give the bars and casinos 2 hours. Where is the priority? Which one is important between the two?
Well, first of all, Pastor, I will not go into how long we preach and all that, because you and I, that's a long discussion. But I think that in the issue, in a situation where you have a calamity and you have to preach, you and I can preach in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We don't mind. But I think what is critical about this development is to give bars, casinos, and taverns 2 hours, and the church 1 hour. And the church 3 times in a week. I think the casinos and the bars 4 times. So if you multiply 4 by 2, they have got 8 hours in a week to drink, to do whatever they are doing in there. Some of it should not be discussed here, but they have got 8 hours to do that. The church has how many hours? They are meeting for
3 times in a week.
3 times and 1 hour. So they have got 3 hours in a week. Obviously, the issue that we are raising here is a principal issue. Let's not belittle the issue of Zambia being a Christian nation. Let's always focus on that, because Christianity is not just an appendage to the big business going on in this country. Christianity is who we are. It's out of that faith in God we become leaders and provide leadership and lead this country in a direction of prosperity. It's not an appendage on the side that you go to when somebody dies and you want them to bury him, or somebody's getting married and you want them to have a wedding and the pastor has to preside. No, I think politicians must understand that Zambia is no ordinary nation. Zambia, by the constitution, has chosen to be a Christian nation. Therefore, even in allocating time to how the church fares in a pandemic like this one, I think let's be sensitive when we deal with bars and the church. The impression that is given that the bars need more time than church does not augur too well. But again, these are issues that we can discuss and continue to discuss with government, that it sends a message that is not that good in terms of the allocation of time. So these are some of the things that we think that if consultation was made in good time, with the church leaders, it was made with community leaders to say this is what we are trying to do, what is your input, and then cabinet can meet, or select committee, in this case the select committee led by the vice president, to be able to bring all these ideas together and give the very best out for the people of this country. I think in that way we will end up with a united nation I repeat, a united nation that together we can fight this pandemic and win.
Dr. Mumba, I'll take you a step back. If you listen to Honorable Masebo's address,
yes.
She's not saying preaching should be 1 hour. This is English.
Yes.
She said the service
is 1 hour.
Is 1 hour. Now here in Zambia, we start the church service at 9 o'clock. People gather at 10 o'clock. That's when they are coming in. But because we go live to the nation, 10 o'clock, my wife and I have to cross over. We are not late on that. But I'm saying, what about churches where people come late? You have 5 people, and the others are coming, according to them, it's 50 people. 5 people are already seated, or 2. 45 are not yet in the church. So when you say the service is for 1 hour, and there are police officers monitoring at what time Pastor Chiluba entered the church, and the drums, the keyboard, everything, songs are going with their watches.
Yeah.
If I go beyond 1 hour, I'm questioned. Didn't you hear the government's mandate? It's 1 hour. I think that I can't trivialize it, Dr. Mumba, and I don't want to go lightly, because this is coming now into my lane. On behalf of other pastors, it's not fair at all.
Well, I think this is where the debate that we had in the beginning was going, that the best way to deal with public policy issues is by having consulted with the church on these matters, to say, listen, we have this problem, and let us talk about what would be the best thing to do. We are thinking as government that maybe the church should have 1 hour for 3 days in a week. Okay? And then we have also proposed to the bar owners that they can't go beyond 2 hours. It's in those planning meetings, consultative meetings, that Pastor Chiluba will raise the hand and say exactly what you've said. You would say, Madam Minister, by the time I step into the church and begin to preach, it's already 10 o'clock, because that's when people now are seated. And so how do you hope for us to have church? Then you could have pleaded to say, give us the 2 hours that you are giving to our colleagues in the bars, because what makes them, deserve 2 hours, and we cannot have 2 hours. So it is in those meetings, again, we go back to the area of consultation. We go back to where government must understand that, like President Hakainde always says, that we are the servants of the people. You cannot be a servant and then at the same time, become the Lord over the people. In other words, if you're a servant, serve their interests, serve their desires, serve those things that are important to them. And the best way to do that, basically, is consultation, because that's what democracy is all about. I wanted
to come to that, because President HH is on record to say, UPND, we are not masters.
Yes.
We are servants.
Servants, yes.
Now, when did the servant tell the owner of the house to say, today you shall not watch TV?
you watch it for 10 minutes.
You watch it for...
Yeah. No, but
I
think this is a very serious matter that we're discussing tonight. And I hope and pray that somebody from government is listening.
Let's pick up the cause, Dr. Mumba. Let's open up this thing. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is Eva Sanderson. I'm calling from Kitwe.
Madam Sanderson, please go ahead and speak to the nation.
Yes.
I want to appreciate the swiftness with which you have put this program together.
Yes, ma'am.
When we heard about the declaration or the instruction to the nation last night, most of us were very upset and very perplexed. And as if that was not enough, we were told that this program starts on the 30th of the month, which only gave 1 day in between. Which means that people never had a chance to interact and to even know who to talk to. So your coming up with the program tonight was very timely and appropriate. The issue of COVID, of course, is generally of concern to all of us. no one wants to lose loved ones. No one wants to lose people of Zambia when something can be avoided. But I do also want to appreciate the fact that emphasis is being put on people actually having the vaccination. Full benefits are not there, they're not clear, so we don't even know why we should be checking it, but we're being made to believe that it's going to be to our advantage. Now, if it's going to be for our advantage, where is the information, where are the statistics? That's number one. Number two, while they emphasize or labor the issue of having it done, the side effects are not openly discussed or covered. And from the various sources of media, we are all aware of the fact that there are a lot of side effects. Whether they try to cover them up or not, we know it's in the open domain. To this effect, I want to say this. One might even say the side effects are very small or very few. However, when it happens to your family, it's not a 0.6%, it's 100%. Because the side effects will obviously affect the people who are responsible for families, the breadwinners. I speak as the mother and the grandmother of many. If I die, or any of the children die who are now looking after me because I'm old, our government does not have any social program in place to look after the elderly, to look after the orphans, and any of these things don't exist. So this is an area which also needs to be thought right through. So let's not just get excited about giving vaccinations, but let's also consider some of the effects and make sure that nobody loses members of the family for something that they could have made a choice to have it or not to have it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva. That's really something.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, let me join her by thanking you, Pastor Chiluba, for coming up with this program. I think what has been missing in this debate are platforms, credible platforms, on which questions that people have can be asked and in a way debated. We may not be able to give the correct answers all the time, but at least they're being debated. Because this issue of vaccination is such a sacred cow that people don't want to talk about it. And I think that this platform you have created, I hope it's not the last one. I hope that you're going to bring other people, you know, the scientists of our country. You're going to bring in, you know, other church leaders. You're going to bring in community leaders, people directly affected by the vaccinations, and also try to find a way in which government should come here and be allowed to articulate their vision on how they hope to combat COVID-19 together with the Zambian people. And I think that this platform must be made available for this discussion, because if we don't have a place to discuss it, this is why we are so disjointed as a country. And I think every media house must have this debate going on and allowing people to ask these questions. That's basically. So, Eva, we do understand you're talking about the side effects which are not discussed. Again, it goes to what I've said, that if we open up platforms on which people can express themselves, somebody will come with a story that, listen, I was vaccinated last month. Look what has happened to my hand. I've gone to the doctors and they have traced this condition to the vaccination I got. And then it becomes a responsibility of government to investigate that and ban that particular vaccine. Like in the United States, you heard Joe Biden say they were not going to use AstraZeneca. They were going to ship it.
Banned it, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to ship it to other countries, to Africa, to use it because they have found that they're not comfortable with it in one way or the other. That's how you watch and look after your people. That once it comes here, the same thing Joe Biden did. We should do, President HH should do it here, to say that we are going to make sure that we are satisfied that this vaccine is safe for our people. So we hear you, Eve. I don't know whether you wanted to answer her in any way.
She also talked about the social programs, Dr. Mumba, that if somebody dies, as the government got the social programs to take care of the people that will be affected. Let's pick up this call. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling us from? Hello?
Hello.
This is
Emmanuel Piri calling from Kitwe.
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead and speak to the world.
Good evening, good evening. How are you, Emmanuel?
Thank you very much.
Just greeting you.
How are you, my brother?
You're breaking up. We hope we can get a clearer.
Yeah.
We hope we can get a clearer signal from you. No. Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, mine is about the announcement which was made by the government. So the Minister of Health, I just want to pick the word of management. I think we need to prepare sometimes the way we announce or just to impose laws on the people. What we're supposed to do, as Mr. Mumba, a person or a register, they need to start engaging by engaging the people, the community leaders. That's why we have got councillors, we have got community leaders, we have got schools, we have got villages, all these institutions can take care or can take responsibility or even help to announce and let them down to safeguard our people, to other institutions. But the government wants to impose a mandatory law to protect their people. I'm afraid. But today, I was watching from here into Superman. I heard a lot of people say, people are complaining that people are even saying they want to initiate that, they want to fulfill that 6 feet, which is which was written in the Bible, and that's why they want to impose on this thing. People are constantly discussing and even reaching a extent of obtaining the government and children and what they started doing the government to say they want to kill us. So the government should take the perception
I can't hear
information.
Emmanuel.
It was too loud. Yeah.
No, because he was raising his voice.
Yeah.
We were not hearing, but I think his concern is the word mandatory.
Okay.
Mandatory, and
was it used?
Yes, you are saying why should the government use the word mandatory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the case is clear, if that's the issue. I just want, we have already discussed this in this program, that government has a program and a mission to vaccinate 2 million Zambians by Christmas. The pressure on government is high. And I think that they need to consider the fact that if they rush this thing at that speed, the challenges that come along with that are really daunting. The other thing, of course, I mean, we want to encourage them. I mean, we can't say anything about the vision government has. If they achieve that number, that's good. But we want you to know that there are many loopholes in this process that they need to look for. There are people out there, we understand now, we are getting reports, that have got vaccination certificates, but they don't have the vaccines.
Even in I was in Cameroon.
Yes.
Last week.
Yeah.
And the people have some certificates.
Yeah. So
but they don't have the vaccine.
Yeah. So Zambia needs to really, really close this thing tightly, manage the people that are giving out these documents. All the corruption that we see at national level, it's in every sector of society. So you may end up having, 500 people that claim to be vaccinated, but they bought their vaccination certificates. And all this needs to be put on the table. How do you seal those loopholes if you really want to get that going? So I think the word mandatory is scratching the Zambians the wrong way, because Zambians are a free people, and they have come to a place where they are really jealous of their own freedoms, and they do not want anybody, including government, to stand in the way of their freedoms. Government will do well if they work with the Zambians and not against the Zambians. Zambians are a great team of people to work with, but you've got to consult them. You've got to work with them. They've got to feel important, that they're being included in the planning of this fight against COVID-19. So we hear you, Emmanuel. I think that it's a good observation.
Before, Dr. Mumba, sorry, before we put somebody online, I had to download the Bill of Rights in our Constitution.
Yes.
And Article 33, it says a person has the right to freedom of conscience, belief, and religion. A person has the right individually or in a community with others, publicly or privately, to manifest any religion or beliefs through worship, observance, practice, teaching, including the observance of the days of worship, clause that goes on. And it says,
it's the last two. It's the last two that you.
This one does not extend to statements that infringe on the enjoyment of freedom of conscience, belief, religion, and what. But this one says, a person shall not be compelled,
correct,
to act or engage in an act that is contrary to that person's conscience.
Conscience, yes.
Belief or religion. A person shall not be deprived of access to an institution or facility on the basis of that person's belief.
Now that's the Bill of Rights.
This is the Bill of Rights.
And that's what I said in the beginning, that the Bill of Rights actually stipulates that you cannot stop someone from getting into an institution or building on the basis of something that he has refused to do based on his conscience.
There is a call. Yeah. You continue, Dr. Mumba. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Pastor Chino.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Mumba.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. What's
Reverend Manduli from within Lusaka.
Reverend Manduli?
Yes, from within Lusaka.
Please go ahead, man of God, and speak to the world.
Thank you very much, sir. For starters, permit me to applaud you as a trailblazer for this very, very important program that is brought to the nation. Because indeed, it is extremely important that, men like you, that are trailblazers that have seen it all in this nation, are able to stand out and stand up for the nation. And I wish also to quickly just applaud Dr. Mumba's consistency regarding, what he had said last year, which I personally, were preview at the time that, he spoke regarding the vaccine. And I applauded that. And I thought that, with the privilege of, having the nation transition from the previous regime to the current regime, probably our leaders now will learn from the mistakes of the previous regime regarding, how to go about this issue. But it seems like, history seems to be repeating itself. I think Dr. Mumba is saying it all, and he has spoken my mind just like Pastor Chiluba, you have. But perhaps maybe what I want to bring to your attention and challenge our leaders across the board is that why are we always seemingly embracing what comes from outside, as though we do not have our brains ourselves to be able to come up with our own? Because when you talk about this particular vaccine, just like you have rightly alluded to the fact that everyone who seems to be raising questions of concern, they're made to shut up. Because this whole thing is innocent and it is meant for our well-being. Why are we not allowing those of us that have divergent views or concerns about the vaccine to speak our mind? Why should we be gagged? That, for me, is the first point of suspicion. And our leaders should not even have taken that route. We've lived that things for so long. I know there are those arguments that have been said, you know, what about the vaccines of polio and others begin to question them. If they didn't question them, then that doesn't then give the right to our leaders today to challenge us not to question this particular vaccine, because it is within our right to question if we suspect that there is something wrong about this vaccine or we are not clear about this vaccine. First of all, the minister in her own statement, when she was asked, I think, about the importance of this vaccine, I think she said that it's one of, if I quoted her correctly, she said it's one of the steps towards, prevention. So it is not the ultimate prevention. So she said it's one of them. Then there's face masking, there's sanitizing or hand washing. Then there's also social distancing and perhaps maybe keeping away from public places if you have no business being there. So why is it that, we are not also promoting these others the way we seem to be promoting the vaccine? So for me, I think these are the critical issues, and also the question that I've raised of saying, why aren't we also looking at our own natural resources to develop our own vaccines, which I stand to be advised and corrected by your fathers there. Whether it is true or not true, but from where I stand, my understanding is that, anyone else who claims to have come up with another vaccine, particularly here in Africa and in Zambia, for example, we seem to discuss that, but we are embracing what is coming from the West, and yet we have even evidence showing certain vaccines that are being shown to say these are not to be used in the USA, they are not to be used in Europe, yet they are being brought here. And I thank God for those tweets Pastor Chiluba has shown. A minister in the European Union has spoken more exactly the same thing that Dr. MUMBA stated, and yet our leaders here can't take a leaf from there. So for me, again, I want to appeal to you, sir, Pastor Chiluba, that like Dr. MUMBA said, this program should not end on this particular program for tonight. I think we should continue until our voices are heard, because the current president has clearly stated that he is there to stay, he's not the master. And we expect that the entire team of ministers and everybody else given the charge to lead the nation, or to provide the service to the nation, they should follow through. They should be able to give us a written yes, and of course they should be able also to understand our concerns, those of us that are not really settled with the issue of what appears to be now a mandatory vaccine. Thank you very much,
God bless you.
Wow.
Have you heard what Reverend Mandulia said?
My goodness, yeah. He has really loaded us with questions, and I think that they are all important. But first of all, on the issue of why are we embracing what comes from outside, I understand your mourning on that issue. But Pastor, this issue is an old problem for Zambia and for Africa. The first place to start is the change of mindset. That, yes, this is from America, this is from Senkobo. But, it doesn't necessarily always mean what is from America is better than what's ours. That mindset has been placed in us, and we are carrying it wherever we go. So we are victims of that misrepresentation of perception. So Zambia must start to work itself out of that. So to answer the Reverend, it will take a long time for us to come to a place where we produce, for instance, a vaccine in which we are going to have confidence ourselves because of this mindset. But I think what we can do as a way to start is, first of all, to accept those vaccines made by others, but put them on the table and really interrogate their efficacy and their appropriateness to our people, you know, before we give them to our people. I think that's the beginning point where you can come up with these questions to say this particular chemical, like somebody said to me earlier, said, you know what they put in that vaccine is the stuff we put in our batteries. How can you put that stuff in our bodies? So they have got all these questions, but our scientists can have a list of questions that they take to Pfizer, that they take to these, you know, pharmaceutical organizations to say, can you explain to us these quantities that you have put here? What is their impact on ABCD? And you must understand, I'll say something else. It's maybe not for today's debate, maybe for another day's debate. But even the medication made, you know, the fact that it's a pill to reduce your blood pressure. There are certain pills that are made according to the DNA of a people. For instance, the black people, a pill can work for a white person, but it may not work for a black person.
Absolutely.
So there is a place of tailoring this medication to the types of people and how they can accept that. We don't even go that far. If we don't say first tulanwa, because by God's grace, but really, if you went scientific, some of these things we just get healed by faith. That non-wamuti, it's supposed to heal me. But the point I'm trying to make is that we need to come to a place when we start to challenge these young scientists and say, you know what, we give you 6 months to come up with a concept of a vaccine. Lock them up there in Siavonga and take food to them and say, you're not coming out of there, you scientists, until you find an answer to this.
And they can.
And they can. People need motivation, they need to be awarded for this innovation, and they need to be encouraged by government and all of us. So I think this issue has brought, it's really a concern to a lot of us, that anything from outside is better than things from within.
Have one of our colleagues, Professor Ambayamba in Kabwe.
Yes.
You know, he laments, Dr. MUMBA, that Africa is very backward in research. We don't want to research. Our friends, they put in more money to come up with what we have.
Yes.
There is a vaccine. If you read, it's just that I didn't bring the bottle, it says not for use in European countries, but for Africa. Why?
Yeah, but that's the issue that I raised in that first.
Why should it be so?
Little clip. I mean, somebody answered me there to say, no, it's because of marketing issues and things like that, and this one has got this market, and they don't want you to sell it in another pharmaceutical company's market and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is that, like I gave the example about the 3 factories, you know, that, you know, within the same vicinity, there are 3 of them. One does one for the Americas, one does one for Asia, the other one does one for, you know, medicine for Africans. It's the same concept. They don't take us seriously because we don't contest the type of medicine they give to us. Some of the medicine we take in Africa has nothing to do with our sicknesses.
No,
we just take it. It's like when I was growing up. After that, my mother would put Vaseline on you. So we are very simple people, but I think the stage we have reached, let us get into research. We may not have that kind of money, but we will never be free until we do our own research. Until we start to go in that direction, we can't be an over-dependent continent for the rest of our lives.
As you said, Dr. MUMBA, that some of these things is mindset.
Yeah.
We had our grandfather. He never believed that you couldn't have your muti so you can get healed unless an injection. So each time he was given an injection, he would feel better. So this time they saw that there was too much medication. The doctor goes, draws water from the tap.
Yes.
And he comes and injects him.
Yes.
When he stood up, he says, "Emutu."
So basically, we need to deal with this mindset. Yes.
That was proper medication.
Yes.
It was just
yes.
water. So this is what Africa is being turned to.
And you know, for me, I'm really tired of always describing the plight of Africa. I think time has come for us now to use all this description to do something about it. And we challenge our leadership, governments on the continent of Africa, that we have heard all the negativity, all our failures, all our laziness to utilize our resources, other people from outside the continent utilize our resources. We have heard all this description of who we are. Why don't we get on with the job of now turning these things into positive things? And I think this can happen as God gives us governments across the continent that can start now to make real these assumptions that we have from all these years that people talk about us.
Before we take the text messages, dear Camnet TV viewers, my director, please give the Zoom keys, ID. There are people outside there who would like to contribute on Zoom and who would like to participate. There, the Zoom password and ID. Dr. Mumba, do I get it then that the government to say you can't buy if you don't have this, you can't do this, like it started happening in Israel? You can't go to a marketplace, you can't go to this. Now it has come in Zambia. Does this mean like the government feels they own our lives?
It's not going to happen. It's a democracy. And like I said, Zambians are very into their freedoms. You can't take it. It's too late. You know, I think where we are now is, like I said about cutting off our feet, you know, our legs, if we think it's for a greater good. It's the same thing with what you've talked about. It is not possible for this government to force us to do what they want us to do without consensus and without agreeing with us. So I think government must get this message loud and clear. And when people resist this, they are not saying they don't like you, government people. They are trying to make sure that your relationship with the people in this country is a respectable relationship.
It's cordial.
It's cordial. These people, we may not be in government, but we may have ideas that you can utilize as government to make sure that our lives are better. And I think that we are at that place where, when you ask that question that, you know, do they think they own us? I hope not. I really hope not. But it is possible, and I hope not, because this is a very new government. I don't think that they would go that far. But when governments become old and dealing with the people over a long time, they start to feel that power that they own the people. I don't think UPN do feel that now. If they do feel that now, it's too early. I think that this moment is their moment of consultation. It's their moment of drawing their power, the direction, and their vision from the people that they govern, because this is the time they are doing the foundation. If they go against the people right now, they will not be able to manage the governance system.
Hello, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please switch off the TV in the background. Switch. What's your name and where you calling us from?
Did we lose her?
Hello?
Or did you switch her off? Hello?
Okay, please call back again. You know, somebody said in America today, when they were sending some of these facts and the website to go to, the side effects and what, really, like you are saying, today, the teachings, our parents that you and I were giving us, those things are in public domain. You can go to Google and get any information.
Correct.
If you have bedroom, if you have a today it's 7-10 years.
Yes, yes.
So what about information like this?
No, I think that, like I've said, I don't want to, you know, coming short of repeating myself. I think that the information is out there, and your government can't do anything about it.
Let's pick up this call. Hello? Hello, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Eminently blessed. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Pastor Mwema and I'm calling from Tendere.
Pastor?
Mwema.
Mwema.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, man of God, and speak to the nation.
Because my job analyzed the heroin. That she wanted to cover the I had a situation, the Apolanta next to my Apolanta, which was about you. Because the Satwata, one of the Infection of Yapokra, the Karina, or country, and you also mentioned the one about Tavakalamba, Ishwana. Because what churches can occur in the old Subato, Canada, the Baba of this country, and you dedicated the Coordinator, and the Sari was a power and in the situation in that sun. Number two is a good time of situation, you have a control and you also have a weak capacity to give to a power and the letter. And you also have a condition, you have a power and you have a condition, you have a number of five Kubanokobate. Only way I can so correct the Kujaranta, but some other but the problem you demonate was especially Kuma pastors because there are some pastors that are child pastors, Korea, Dixter, Pachimacha, Russia, liberation, never supported into its direction. So I mentioned that you are on top of your chapter like Bonafiashi, mutually that way now, otherwise, I don't think Muri Chisha so Nabutu country Yayoko the Tamna Dokomati. Not to Manaka God is already quantity as well as Yamata, they must consider in Sanesa, or in a letter for which they were given us, and also Nama ideas, and also the way things are German situation, that Bakumla can be the German situation, you are told him on the Avantamani. And you also got ways of coloration, coronavirus, I put the power of the University to put you to wake up, good material child 20, but you know, suffering on the paralyzed and then the other question to throw a much change, nothing different, just that we don't know what they are planning, and that we should have for the government to achieve as a government in this thing.
Well, thank you.
Pastor Mwema. Yes. Doctor.
Yes. I think that for those who did not understand Bemba, I think he is dealt with several issues.
Absolutely.
But the last one, of course, is the fact that he believes that what happened in 2020 and all the things we did in preparation or curbing COVID-19, he didn't think that this new government would want to go back to some of those arrangements without consultation with the stakeholders. I think the government is listening to what we are discussing today. And like I said in the beginning, the reason for this program is to allow people like Pastor Mwema to express themselves, on a platform where their questions can be answered. And one would hope that government is listening and they are not going to be like the previous government or previous governments where sometimes when you speak, then you have offended. When you ask, you have offended. I hope that we are now in a democratic space where people can be free to ask the question that he's asking without him feeling intimidated. I think this thing is very heavy, if you can hear from the people. They just are in shock that, this kind of reaction, it's like when we were young. I shouldn't say this, I'm a pastor, but when we were young, we'd go kitchen, no kuya milk lactogen, wawula, wamyanga, nang vechikopo half, wapwa. Kaita fiale mweneka. Ni wale fuma wakumanya baroko. Bayanda tu wafumole chisanchu mwadinangu fimu. Nishumuka kauli ponzo na mumiona hapa.
Na uive nama.
Nomba, banoko for instance, bakuta forgive, bakushina fikukutu, uleke, shan. Elo ba isa umfwa. Elo babulo bwembia bakufulela elo balaku mumlopa walafu makunuma. The punishment for the sin committed is too excessive. So even the punishment must equal the the criminal, or rather the problem that the boy has created. I think Zambians are saying the reaction of government on this matter is too extreme, to the extent that, you know, they have given bars more time than churches. They have gone to the extent of starting the vaccine mandate in Zambia, when no African country is starting to do any of that. So I think they are concerned that maybe we are going in a bad direction, and they are waiting for people to speak out. And I think all we can do is to advise government. Our late brother President Michael Chilufya used to say, meaning the UPND is in charge of this government. They will have to determine whether they use a spoon or umunwe. Sometimes we can't say anything because musunga wabo at that particular time. So the question,
but it's too early, Doc.
Yeah. So I think they're listening to what we're saying, and I think that the Zambian people have really cried out. And to echo your words, our plea with government is that we agree with the other points that the minister talked about, which have been traditional in the manner we protect ourselves against COVID-19. But the moment you touch vaccine mandates, you touch a very sensitive nerve, because that has no end. It's going to morph into something else that really is going to injure the democracy of our country.
Let's pick up this call, then we go to messages. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, my name is Moses.
Your name is?
Moses.
Moses from where?
From Chico.
Please go ahead and speak to the nation.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Moses. How are you?
I'm okay now. Yeah, my contribution is who you are in partnership with the organization. I think you can hide so that
Sorry, Moses, please call again. Your line is not clear. Sorry about that. Please give us the text messages, Mr. Director.
Before you go, sir,
yeah.
I think I understood this question. I think he's saying, since you're in partnership with UPND, why don't you just talk to them about this issue? I think that's what he was trying to say.
Since
we are MMD,
MMD
in partnership, yes, on certain facts. I want you to know that whatever is necessary, we are doing. Early this morning, when this information really sat home, the first person I tried to call was the Minister of Health, you know, to just ask whether what I'm hearing on social media is correct. In fact, people who were calling me to say, this is what government have said, and they sent me messages. I said, no, this is fake news from social media. Until I got a clip of the minister herself mentioning what she mentioned. And I tried to call her. And the information that I was receiving, I forwarded that to her this morning for her to realize the fact that if we take this path, I think that we are overstepping. So yes, you know, I do my very best to make sure that our partners are told even before I come on air. So I'm not on air without, you know, the UPND knowing that this is the position that we have taken on this issue, because we think that it's in the interest of the nation, but it's also in their interest as government to make sure that they don't arm twist the Zambian people, because Zambian people do not react well to arm twisting. I think we need to work with the Zambian people, be the servants of the people, to make sure that we fight COVID-19 together. It's the only way we can achieve what we want to achieve.
In Bemba we say,
Kuna kirira. Yeah. Can you interpret that in English for Now for the Easterners, what he's saying is that if you find a way of, you know, softly speaking, you can actually bring down what is impossible.
Let me put it
to discussion.
in the Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible says a soft answer,
yes,
turns the wrath down.
Yes.
You don't go hard on.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who can say, okay, the government says this. The government will meet some people with that, you know, who are not scared to die, who are not scared to this. When a person goes to a certain level, you push him. anywhere in the world. It has never worked.
No.
Anywhere in the world.
No, I think this is a very good place for the UPND government. It has come early in their time in government, and this is a test for them. And the only advice we can give to them, please listen to the Zambian people. They may have funny questions, but those questions need answers in a respectful way. And I think that together we can defeat this pandemic.
Mr. Director, please give us the text messages. Let's read some, and may God bless the people of Zambia. The COVID-19 mandate by the government through Health Minister Masebo is a time bomb to the UPND government. They will lose the 2026 elections if they don't rescind their decision. People should not be forced to be vaccinated. The youths will rise again to vote out the party in government in 2026. Before we read other messages, have you heard this?
Yeah, well, I think that people should be able to express themselves. I think government needs to hear these views and start to assess how they approach this issue of mandatory vaccination. They have not said that, but I think Zambians have interpreted it, that if you can't go to an office to get service from a government office unless you have a vaccination certificate. In terms of the way they view it, they're viewing it like it's a mandatory thing that they're forcing us to be vaccinated. So I think that government must listen to what the people are saying and you know, assess the way that this message has come across to the Zambian people. Many people have not received it well, and we do not want to create a crisis for ourselves when we are doing so well.
Give us some more text messages, Mr. Director. Let's read some more. Good evening, Pastor Moses Chiluba. We are not interested with their pronouncements. If Honorable Masebo mean well for Zambians, let her retire. All of us. This is Zambia. Why should they force others on behalf of their businesses?
Well, do you understand what he's saying? Basically, he's saying, why don't you fire all of us? You know, there comes a time when you create, as government, and you mean well. You're concerned that people should not, you know, get this COVID-19, and let's take drastic steps to stop this issue. But the repercussion is the one you talked about, Pastor Chiluba, when you talked about 911, that you call 911 and nobody will come to service you because people have resigned because they have refused to get vaccinated. And yet they cannot go to work. It's the same thing here. What if the Zambians say, a number of Zambians say we are not going to get vaccinated, so we are not coming to the office until, you know, the government gives us another way of working because we feel strongly about not getting vaccinated. So I think that's what they are calling a time bomb. I think government must listen to what the people are saying and cooperate with them in ensuring that nothing must be forced upon an individual. Like we said in the beginning, not even God forces us. Now, if God who created us doesn't force us, there is no government that has more power than God to force its citizens to do what is against their will. In a monarchy, yes. In a country where there's no democracy, yes. But Zambia is one of the leading democratic countries on the continent.
Mr. Director, please give us this clip about the people protesting. You know, there was a huge protest today in England against the vaccine.
No.
There was a huge one. And there is the Prime Minister there, I don't know what he's thinking about this. All over the world, Dr. MUMBA, there are those who can go for the vaccination, and there are those who won't. Yeah. That's a fact.
Yes, and the sooner we accept that, some will get vaccinated, some will not get vaccinated. Government's position is that the rights of the vaccinated and the rights of the unvaccinated should all be observed. In other words, you should not take the rights of one group and place them on the other and consider those people to be stubborn or they're the ones who are creating a problem. No, I think that if they're expressing their democratic right, according to the Bill of Rights, then you cannot call them names, because that's what they believe. It's like somebody being, PF and another one being MMD. You might say, but why would you belong to a party like that? But he has chosen. That's his party. He has his own reasons for choosing. So you cannot punish him just because he doesn't belong to a certain group. And I think this is important that we have had this discussion
Mr.
tonight.
Director, give us that protest that was there in England just today, and let the people see that this is real. This is not child's play. There you have it, Dr. MUMBA. Whether it was yesterday's, today's, whether it happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this protest was people saying, we are not going to take this vaccine. And this is in Europe.
I think what we can learn from that is not to shut things like this down. I think what government needs to do is to accept in their minds that there will always be two groups in this matter. And they have the mandate to govern over both the groups. They also have a responsibility to offer equal treatment and equal justice to both groups, and to protect the rights of both groups. And I think that the sooner the government acknowledges this, the sooner the peace comes to the nation. Because those who are not vaccinated can still carry their test certificates. If you want to test me whether I have that, I have no problem. We can get that tested and show it at the point of entry, like in South Africa. South Africa has got these problems, but I can go to South Africa today. You don't need a vaccine.
No, you don't.
You just need to show your certificate. And basically, that's all that there is. But the vaccine issue is raising emotions in the nation, and it's raising emotions globally. And Zambia is no exception. We must find a way to effectively handle this matter.
And the Spanish government, Doc, there is a judgment there. They threw this thing out, that we don't force people into vaccination.
No, all the court cases that have come up with this mandate issue, they have not won. The people who have sued, like in Zambia, if this mandate or somebody goes to court tomorrow, to say that we've been told we can't go to work because we have no vaccination, they win. Those people will win the case against the government because it goes contrary to the fundamental rights of a human being. It goes contrary to the Bill of Rights, but it also goes contrary to just the God-given liberties to make a decision on issues that affect your life. So I think that this advice we are giving to government is for the purpose of having a transition and a process that brings everyone together in order for the Zambian people to be convinced by argument or by persuasion that they need to do one or two things and not to be forced to do what they don't want to do.
I'm telling you, by the special grace of God, I want us to take the text messages. The text messages. Men of God, help us. Zambians must stand up and demonstrate in the street, but this mandate is dictatorship. UPND is showing us dictatorship acts now. We have rights to food and freedom of movement. Freedom of expression is now being taken away.
Well, like I said in the beginning, I think all these texts, in fact, they should give us, give us more texts. But
please give us one after another, after another.
People are expressing themselves. They're just expressing themselves.
Good evening, Pastor Chiluba and Dr. MUMBA. We are grateful that you have decided to speak for the voiceless, like me, who is never ready for this vaccine. Let UPND know that we did not vote for them to be dictators, but to help us live better lives. We support HH so far, but let him be a listening leader by listening to this program. May God bless you. This is Juvenalis Tembo in Katete.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
No,
I think that, like I said...
Read this.
Yeah, but you have read it very well. It's the same one.
No,
it's a different one. Okay, good evening, pastors. I have followed you from the very beginning of the program, and you have spoken well on vaccination issue. I'm equally surprised to hear that it has become a mandate that all should be vaccinated. This is a violation of human rights, and people should not be forced to get a jab. Let those who want to be vaccinated go ahead. Simple. Mundia from Iteji.
Another one, sir.
Why is it that other diseases have no waves? Why do African leaders have deaf ears when in power? Is it colonial virus in a way? Where are the church mother bodies? At why does COVID-19 have waves, but the other sicknesses don't have waves? We can't answer that one. Go ahead, sir.
I think government has to come up with a way which will help the Zambian people on the way, other than coming up with a harsh decision. And I think Africa has to come out of believing what the outsiders are giving to them without applying knowledge and verification for whatever they supply to us. Matthews, within Lusaka. One more before we comment.
Yeah.
Pastor Chiluba, may God continue blessing you, man of God, for courage to come out and try to educate to... What's that?
To inlet, English
to our government, I think.
Just say to our government.
Leaders that they must fear God, for these are not their people, they are gods. And the things you touched, I think.
Yeah, most it does.
Touch me, most. Does God force people? No, does
He
God
was doing it in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, salvation.
To receive salvation?
Yeah.
Tell them that God accepted to rule this nation, to know that they will be answerable.
Yeah, that is...
How would you summarize these text messages and that one who said... something?
No, I think what we are doing tonight, sir, is not necessarily to create a crisis for government. That's not our intention. Our intention is to give a platform to the Zambian people to express themselves on this subject. And I think that there's consensus, by and large, that government does not have the power to dictate the mandate. Of course, they can, if they want to, like they're doing it, but it is not sitting well with the Zambian people, because those who do not want to get the vaccine, they are not going to get their arms twisted for any reason. If we want them to get the vaccine, we must persuade them. That's what democracy is. That's what the rule of law is. It's not to use the power of government to subdue people to do what government wants to do. And I think government has been listening to us tonight, and basically what the people are saying is that we have no problem, cooperating on all the other, things that we've been taught to do in order to protect ourselves against COVID-19. But this issue of vaccine mandate is something that Zambians, even if you go on the streets tomorrow, even those who are vaccinated are saying, you know what, in terms of freedoms, I chose to get vaccinated. In the same way I chose to get the vaccination, my neighbor can choose not to get vaccinated. And I think that is where we should be in a democracy. and Zambians should not feel in any way that they will be denied services by government on the basis of a vaccination. I think that is the fight that has emerged, and I hope that government can address itself to that.
Like there is a saying that one man's meat is
another man's poison. It's just the way God has created man. You can try to convince him this is good for you, but until he's convinced, you don't have him, and you are going to allow him. Even when you see people that in the family, a paper fievange, at the end of the day, you have to find a formula to help him come to his mind so that he can, line up with the life of being sober. But if you twist him, all you do is leave home and the next thing you hear is that he's in a drain, he died on his own. So I think time has come for government to understand that this probably is the first test for the UPND government in terms of understanding how to probably put across an important idea to the people that are divided, to a people that is divided between an issue. It is not an impossibility, but I think that the Zambians are speaking that vaccination, which is mandatory, is not something Zambians would like to entertain.
One of the things that we've been mandated as media houses, of course you know this, that one of the things about televisions, print media or whatever, we are there to entertain, inform, educate. Would any reasonable Zambian think that you and I are here tonight inciting people to work against the government?
I think this is why from the beginning to now, I have made it very clear that this issue has come to us as a people. There's a statement from the minister, and the responsibility of all of us is to interrogate those things that have been presented to the Zambian people. That's why I said in the beginning, I'll say nothing except that which the minister has said and respond to only those things. So you noticed I started from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I said we agree with that. Even my party agrees with that because we've gone through it. Then 7 and 8, because they are bordering on mandatory things that we do not agree. Then we jump and agree with the others, then come to the issue of the church and the bars. There we also say, here we do not agree. We are just part of the society. This is our position. Government can still overlook what we are saying, and they have a right to overlook what we're saying. But at the end of the day, Zambians have rights, inalienable rights given to them not just by the Constitution, but God himself, to choose for themselves what they want. And government must work in making sure that no one is segregated against. And this is really what this message is all about. Those who are not vaccinated must not be stopped from participating in the life of this country. And I know it is sensitive, but vaccination is one of the many interventions in controlling COVID-19. It goes right along with every other piece of advice that has been given to us. Therefore, we should include it as part of the cocktail to answer the question of COVID-19. Is it important? Yes, it is important. If it's the right vaccine and it's been well proven to be working, it is important that we put it as part of the cocktail to answer this question that Zambians are asking about, defeating COVID-19. So none of us here is saying go on the streets and demonstrate. There's really no reason for anybody to demonstrate here. This thing has not even been enacted. We are in the discussion mode of trying to appeal to government to see that there's another side to this issue, and the way it is being perceived is this way. So we think that this meeting and this broadcast is not meant to incite anybody. I would not be part of anything that incites anybody against government at this time. I think what we are doing right now is that government has given a position, and there are questions about that position, and we have sat here to say we agree with a number of those things, but the vaccine mandate contradicts the very essence of a democratic state. And I think that it is important for those who are not vaccinated, but they are also Zambians, to enjoy you know, the government of the day and the services that are being offered by government.
Dr. Mumba, we will take 5 messages, not phone calls. If there is a phone call, let me not say that. Again, democracy. If there is a phone call, please load it on. But we'll take 5 messages. And after this, you could summarize, because I know tomorrow our breakfast team at 7 o'clock, they will pick up this. And 7 o'clock, please tune in to ComNet Breakfast Show, and you'll be blessed. Give us 5 messages, Dr. Mumba. Don't you think you are understanding?
You're underrating.
You are underrating the vaccine.
I don't think so. I think, like I've said, I think people should go ahead and get vaccinated the moment they get convinced the vaccine is good for them, and the questions they have about it are answered. I think they should. Like I said, it's part of the cocktail to resolve the issue of COVID-19. And I agree with government using everything in their hands to make sure that we combat COVID-19. And I know, I've been there where they are. I understand the urgency they feel, that if they allow this, this pandemic to slip through their fingers, it will be their government that will pay the highest price. But all we are asking them is that there will always be people that may not get the vaccine. How are you going to treat them? Are they going to be treated and feel like they're Zambians as well? Or are they going to feel like strangers in their own country? So I do understand that vaccine plays a role of helping out. Like, you know, polio, we had vaccines of yellow fever. But this is a very unique situation where, you know, people are being told that you can't go to a government building because if you don't have one. So I think these are the issues that are on discussion today.
And I think what what I would say to ComNet TV viewers, I wish I could offload this. Please get on some government sites in the UK, the one I gave you, because that is credible. It is from the government website. And also, Dr. Mumba, there's a list which I don't want to go into about some people that have been affected this, and the world knows this.
Yeah.
You see, the problem is that as ComNet, we can choose to cover what is good and leave the bad. We can choose to cover what is bad and leave the good. And this is what is happening in the media out there. You've lived in America. You know that there is CNN, which is America, and CNN, which is international.
Yes, of course.
Certain things that are brought here are the good things. Nobody would ever think there are places worse than Kanyama in America.
Of course.
People who have not been there, they don't believe that. But one of the things that I want to say to African presidents, leaders, and all this, it made a sad reading when I learned, Dr. Mumba, how they catch monkeys in the jungles in Congo. Amazon. These people, they go there, they find the monkeys, a lot of them. When monkeys climb, they go up there. They go with 2 buckets, one with water. They put buckets there, they start washing their faces, and the monkeys are watching. And you know, monkeys are intelligent. Yes. That's where some ancestors came from. So they are washing their faces. They are washing their faces. When they finish, they pour the water and leave the buckets of glue. So when the monkeys come down,
they want to wash their faces.
They wash their faces
and they can't see.
5 minutes they can't see, so they just sit and they are just put in cages. I think sometimes this is how Africa behaves.
Yes, I know
because
that,
they will pour out the good stuff and give Africa something. I'm not underrating anybody, but we like copying things without, like you said, interrogating things. It's high time. We are praying for our President HH and this government. It's too early to start imposing things on the Zambian people?
Yeah, I think I've made it very clear. I think the question you asked was very important. I mean, as a party, we have made a commitment to partner with our colleagues in the UPND in the governance issues. There's 7 of them. And I have confidence that if we can rally around those virtues of that we have outlined, Zambia will be a better country. So even this issue, the reason we are derailed is the fact that we think that it's the best time before they enact it to talk about it. Obviously, our team has been talking to the UPND officials. I mean, there was a statement that we are working on. We haven't let it go yet because we are trying to make sure that we communicate with our friends on what we think about certain issues. So this issue had to be discussed. Because it comes into force. Is it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Tomorrow. Tuesday. So really there was no time, you know, for us to have a roundtable meeting with stakeholders and stuff like this. But people have been asking questions. And I think those who watched my first video from 2020, you know, didn't give me a break today. You can imagine how busy the phone has been. So I didn't know about the minister's statement until I started to receive all this information. And I've come here to say, yes, my position remains the same, that any vaccination that is given to any Zambian must be verified by us ourselves. I think that is not asking for too much. And therefore, we are in a place now where mandatory vaccination is not something Zambians are going to take lightly. However, we think that it is something, once somebody is convinced, they should go ahead and take the vaccination because they are convinced that it is safe for them.
Of the many messages that we have received, bad and good and all this, threats of this, that, what I've said, Dr. MUMBA, is that the minister said it. We are yet to hear from President HH whether he's going to compel the people of Zambia to say take the vaccine.
Well, what is interesting about what the minister said is that this is a select committee which was led by the vice president. The president was not there in this meeting. What she didn't mention is to whether it was taken to cabinet and the president said, let's do this, or it came from the select committee. We don't know. That was not clear in the statement. But whichever way it is, I think that President Hakainde Hichilema has made it very clear that he is going to practice servant leadership. In other words, a servant would like to listen to the masters. And I think he will be interested to hear what Zambians are saying about this matter. You know, like anything, you can bring a program in the country, but you wait for the reaction. It's like the United States. They bring something out there, and people rise up and say, no, we don't want this. They have to reconsider and reconfigure that policy to bring it back again in another form. So this is the reason for these meetings. These meetings are not there to take away power from government. These meetings are there to give power to government to see what is happening in the country, that they can make a decision. I mean, for me, I speak with this authority because I know that, you know, even if President Hakainde is watching, he knows that this is a passionate position that I hold and you hold and many Zambians hold. The question is, are they going to be considered like the others who are vaccinated in this regard?
I just want to appeal to the president and the minister. In all that you do, please learn from the previous governments. I know that you are a young government full of learned people. Education is very important. I asked you, Honorable Dora Siria here, I don't want to play the video, but I got a clip. I told Honorable Siria here that, you know, as government, you are not good at disseminating information. You don't take time to educate people. You just come back. And she agreed, and I've got that on tape. And one of the things that I've learned about UK, why crime is not so rampant like in some other countries, because there, you've lived there also maybe, they take time to educate. They will tell you, we have put CCTV cameras, those breaking the vehicles, what, and they will tell you what they are doing. So if you think they are kidding, they will pounce on you. And you know that UK is the most, it's a country with most CCTV cameras on the planet. They can trace you from home to the time you go to sleep, back to sleep. So they take time to educate the people. They don't just come, we'll arrest you, we'll arrest you, we'll. And my appeal to this government is please take time to educate the people. On behalf of my wife, who is the CEO of this company, Kamne TV, she just said, please let's help our government. In case they don't know the other side of what people are thinking. Because when you're in power, sometimes you underrate the people, you know. So we just brought this, and I can thank you, Dr. Mumba, for accepting to come at short notice. Nifibalanda teach Congo Lubilo, Naiwe Kuchipeko Lubilo, no Mupini. No, but so, Tuesday, tomorrow, the government says there will be officers everywhere.
Well, I think I need to thank you as well, Pastor Chiluba, for calling for this meeting. I think what has happened in this meeting is to affirm the fact that the Zambian people are listening to what this government is doing. And I think this government has received a lot of support from the Zambian people ever since it was instituted. I have not found a situation in which they have reacted to this government like this one. I think that they are scared that their choice of a government, they don't want anything to go wrong with the UPND, and that is why they are rising up to say, but what is this? So I think us as stakeholders, first of all, me as a pastor like you are, me as a leader of a political party in the opposition, but also a partner with the UPND and a friend of the president, I know that this is a difficult subject, but it's a subject that is in, what do you call it in English? It's
public domain.
In public domain. So even if we hide from it, what does that do for us? I think people are talking, and we must listen to them. And I hope that government will reconsider. I mean, all the other things we don't have a problem, but to reconsider this vaccine mandate, I think it will bring more problems than solutions to the people of this country. I thank you.
Thank you. And dear Kamne TV viewers, thank you so much. And mother bodies, church mother bodies, please stand up and speak. For me, it's not fair that the church gets 1 hour and the bars and casinos are getting 2 hours. That's my opinion. I'm a preacher. No apology to offer. If I was considered, I could have said switch. Let the church have 2 hours, even 3 hours. As a matter of fact, we are praying for the peace of this nation. We've been praying for this nation. To be given 1 hour, that's not in my interest. And mother bodies, we leave it to you. You also come out and speak. And pastors in this nation, you must stand and be counted before God. It is good to read about Daniel, how he said, I will not defile myself. It is good to read about Joseph, how they stood. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It is very good for you to go and construct a sermon, but when it comes for you to live what you read about the 3 Hebrew children, it becomes a different ball game. And these are the times we are living in. On behalf of my wife, on behalf of the technical team, and on behalf of the Kamne TV viewers, I want to thank Dr. Mumba for coming at this short notice to be with me. I've been your pastor on National Matters, Pastor Moses Chiluba. Continue with the breakfast tomorrow morning. We love you, and remember, this is not just another channel. Bye-bye.